So I'm going to start, and I'm trying to be quick. But before I get into the subject for today, uh, I wanted to share a few things about what SAP does. And I want to try and correlate it back to Mr. Roy. And yesterday I was at another conference speaking, which was organized by IMM in Mumbai, and the room full with probably 250 people, a lot of CEOs, MDs, COOs, CFOs, CPO, Chief of Supply Chain, CHRO, all of them. Total variety, and I totally loved it. Uh, SAP is, and I'm very proud to tell you, we completed 51 years in existence as a company globally, and we've been helping companies globally to achieve what they actually would love to in their organizational life. So in India, we touch more than 65% of GDP. 8 cars out of 10 cars you're driving in India are getting manufactured using an SAP system. We are providing electricity and water to 500 million houses in India. When you look at a sector which is on commerce, $46 trillion of commerce we are doing globally with our set of customers. And that's our strength. When you look at cement or manufacturing, or let's say the process industry, we're also covering 70% of that volume globally. And in India, if you're building your house, wherever you buy your cement from, 80% of that you would be touching an SAP system. And if you're looking at manufacturing as such, any goods produced in your house by any of the big conglomerates in India, let me tell you, 100% of that is coming from touching an SAP system and coming to your house. That's our strength. Now, why am I talking about this? Because then yesterday again, I heard a very contrarian view. Okay, and I think few things to be taken with a pinch of salt. India probably, when I heard the CEO of Cipla, and let's say Serum, again happens to be our customer, Aurobindo Pharma, the MD was there. They said we probably were the first country to roll out an indigenous medicine, which was never expected ever. If the thing would have happened probably in some of the time, probably because of the government push, the PLI which was provided back to them, and in straight 90 days we could get the medicine out. On top of it, we were the sole country to actually export it to 90 plus countries out there to save the world from the pandemic. Let's look at it like that. When you look at the cement sector, they said the green cement is probably the fastest growing thing on planet, because they're also one of the largest producers of carbon, and therefore India is probably gaining steam as getting there as the number one producer towards the steel and cement. We are definitely far away from countries like China, but I think much has been done in the sector as well. In terms of e-commerce, and I think Dr. Wright touched upon ONDC, I got a chance to meet the Honorable Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, and the MD and CEO of ONDC. And what a brilliant concept. The government doesn't want a penny out of it. I bet you today, you go back home, you try and order something from Flipkart and Amazon versus an ONDC, it'll be 20% cheap at least, as compared. And by the way, SAP is joining the bandwagon of ONDC as well. Okay, so you will soon see, at least on the Ariba platform, because I lead the spend management business, so that's SAP Ariba, that's SAP Concur, SAP Fieldglass, and the business networks part of it. Anything you spend under your roof in your organization, it will go through an SAP system, which is led by me, let's say, in the Indian subcontinent space. Okay, so, and let's come to the employment, or let's say the unorganized sector as well. You know which country in the world right now is vouching for a system to manage their blue-collar employees, and let's say the unstructured employee segment? We are 5 times larger than any other country outside in terms of probably looking into the manpower, where the country is pushing for mandates and regulations back to these customers, telling them, I need data. because this is not there. So while the country is trying to do it for their own, they are also pushing organizations to actually participate and give some structured data back in some form and shape. And I tell you, professional services probably, and I saw somebody, some people from Wipro, they are the farthest, reaching that particular area. So let me tell you, on the contrarian view, there were a lot of positivity which I could gain yesterday in a very different form and shape across industries. And I think today we got a very contrarian view when you started to actually look at other factors as well. So I totally loved it, and I think it's food for thought for all of us. But net, when we talk about today's topic, and let me now digress towards today's topic, and this is why we are here. While we say that yes, economy is booming, are there data points? And the very first thing when I said, why am I talking about SAP touches the GDP of such big companies, 99 out of 100 largest companies in the world, they use SAP. 98 of the biggest green companies in the world, they use SAP. And when I look at it, if the economy is booming, let's say in India, or let's say probably we are doing fairly okay in certain other countries, it should come out in the form of data, and we have that. And this is what I wanted to digress to. If we are booming, are we traveling more? Getting back to the topic of today, which is more towards the travel and expense, are we spending more? Is that happening? And I want to present two very simple, the essence of it is that the travel across the globe has gone up from pre-COVID times back to post-COVID times. Is that good news in terms of economy? Yes. If it used to be X pre-COVID, it is X plus Y now, which is 110 million of transactions we have done across the travel, and expense is similar, is crossing trillions of dollars. And what it definitely means is the travel and expense segment has gone up twice, more than twice of what it used to be pre-COVID. Now in the post-COVID era. So this is pathetic. I do not know. Do you want to give me the laptop? So let's look at some of the current landscape. Okay. So what are the top priorities for companies in the coming year? Okay. And this is a report which is done by SAP and Economist. Okay. And we are looking at certain priorities which are defined by CFOs predominantly, because this area generally comes under your purview. You're very worried on the compliance audit part of it. So 76% are increasing automation to improve efficiency and productivity. We are looking at 67% growing and scaling the business. So, and let me tell you, this phenomenon came in yesterday as well. There are almost 2 in every 10 companies in India right now, they're going out of India to buy out companies. This is the time. So I was asking this with one of the MDs of Ultratech Cement, which is the largest cement producers in India. And I was asking, are you looking at mergers and acquisitions? And he said, we probably would end up buying 5 companies outside of India in the next 1 year. So if you have not invested in Ultratech stock, probably that's going to go up. I asked him, do I buy? And he said, I didn't tell you this. Okay, so no official news, but yeah, of course, it's not him only. It's on the pharma sector, it's on the IT sector, and I think people are looking at buying out a lot of companies in a cash-strapped region. Europe predominantly, getting into Brazil. That economy is brewing, but there are a lot of startups. And I met at least 5 startups yesterday who have just done their IPOs. By the way, we are the 3rd largest startup ecosystem in the world now. Okay, and all this would not have been possible if we would not have those kind of policies which have been in place now. So probably that's definitely helping us. Now 61% are improving ability to innovate and adapt, and I think that's a very, very important point. So it's very good that I want to buy technology, but it's of no use if I'm not using it. Okay, so it's easy to implement, but we need to adopt it as well. And I think the last point is sustainability and resiliency, which everyone is totally talking about. Let me ask you a very simple question. If you're spending on your travel and expense, if you're spending 100 rupees today in your company, Can you tell me how much of that is through a women-owned organization? Can you please tell me how much of that is actually helping the tribal areas to lift up their economy? For example, we did a doctors conference and you wanted to give some awards. By the way, we take care of it. So I do not know what's in a door gift today, but then we take care of it. We help the tribal economy. And I can tell you today, this much of percentage of my spend will always go towards tribal economy. And that's basically a system which is going to tell you. So you tomorrow, if you want to sit down with your CEO or your MD, how are you helping him in his or her sustainability scorecard? What's your contribution? How many trees did you save today after you went home? And it's charity starts at home. So have you stopped printing papers? When you go back to your CEO and he says the government of India has given a mandate that every quarter now your P&L statement should also carry a sustainability statement. And if you're not doing it, sooner or later you'll be penalized. Forget that. Tata Steel yesterday told me they cannot sell steel right now in Europe, in certain countries, because they have laws in place now. If it is not built through green practices, you can't sell. And therefore, this is going to come down to probably every organization out there. So it's going to become a necessity. Now, pivoting back to the travel and expense side of it, probably just in the interest of time, the whole essence of it is I wanted to live a journey with you while you are planning for your travel. You plan to go to another country or you plan to go domestically from one place to the other. How do you plan it? And how do we plan it in SAP? I just wanted to live that journey with you and probably give you a snapshot. And we are also talking about the conversational AI. I think generative AI is going to become a big phenomenon. You can't stop it now. And I can tell you today, if you are raising a PR in your organization, tomorrow SAP is going to lead to a situation in probably 1.5 years where I can speak to the conversational AI and it can just do it for me. Or I can just write it, I want to buy a laptop. Can you just raise a PR? And the audit, the policies which are there, it will be kept in mind basically and then will be raised accordingly back into your system. So today, if let's say you're a new entrant in an organization, you would not even know what kind of policies are there, but the system is then going to take care of you, take care of it for you. So this is the kind of change we are expecting. Now, on the travel and expense side, one more thing which comes to our mind is how do we actually tell our people, and I totally love one area of discussion, whenever you're traveling, you would say, how much can I spend on the dinner? Can you please tell me what's the limit? And probably you would say, can I go for a very branded, costly whiskey? Is that allowed? Not allowed. Then probably from a pharma sector, they would say, actually, I'm going with a doctor. Am I allowed to actually spend this much of money with them? All these policies are there and they are built into your system. When nobody understands, or let's say read that particular policy book, ask yourself how many times you would have read it. A CFO, a chief of admin, a chief of HR would actually define those very gleefully. They would look very sexy, so to say, and they would put it in a pocket of book and then they would put it somewhere so that people would adhere to it. But do the people who basically come into the system or are there in the system, do they even read that? And if that's not the case, how is the system going to take care of it? So what SAP has done, we have created something called as Travel Hub. Okay. The system guides me. Okay. We call it Guide Me. I can speak to the system. I can just chat with it. Does my policy allow X, Y, Z? The system would give me an answer and I would actually go ahead, do it accordingly. Or we are getting into the new experience of booking travel. Okay, we're calling it the next generation travel, and my good friend, Sri is going to show you some conversational AI, gimmicks, or I would say some demonstrations today as well, and I'm sure you're going to love it. So essentially we are making it so easy that I will just put into the system screen, I want to go to SAP Texas. That's it. And the system is then going to throw options back to me. The nearest airport is this. These are the nearest hotel. And if you're looking for a hotel where you might say, you know what, I need a coffee shop down there. So my search I would refine and I say, I'm going to SAP Texas office and give me a hotel which has a coffee shop. And then basically all the recommendations would be given by the system itself. Please bear in mind they would adhere to your policies and then the options would be given back to you based on your persona. Because if you are a manager, for example, and you can't spend more than 10,000 rupees on hotel night, that recommendation will not be given to you, which is not logical. So the whole idea, while you're defining your policies like the way we have done it, you need to understand your stakeholders. You need to think outside the box. We can't put checks on checks. Okay, and I think this is what CFOs does the best. I totally love the community, but CFOs would make sure you double check it. Okay, and then there's a guy who would come on top of it, very skeptical, beware of audit, triple check it, triple check it. You know, you make sure there's no violation. And then there could be some legal guy and say, is it compliant? So check it again. You know, so we totally love it, and I think this is what we built into the system. There's no need to check now. The system is going to behave the way you want it to behave. Reimagining your payment methods. There's a number I'm going to throw, and this number is 17.16 lakh crores. If you can make some sense out of it. This is double that of, almost double that of, uh, and then there's another number which is 1,000, around 1,041 crores. This is double of what China did, if you can guess what this number is. 1,041 crores and 17.46 lakhs crores. 1,041 crores is the number of UPI transactions which India did in October 2023 only. And 17.46 lakh crores is the spend of that volume which we did in October 2023 only. And that is how fast it's growing. So that's the UPI. So have you ever imagined when when my employee is actually spending, the biggest delight for my employee is to get my money back in time, and that too in full, without cut, which we would love to, because of policies, you didn't adhere to this, you didn't adhere to that, so cut 20%, cut 5%. Nobody likes that. But if I get paid in time to the full, because the system takes care of the policies, I'm going to love it. And have you ever imagined you can do those transactions through UPI to your vendors? Are we getting towards the employees? Yes, maybe in future, but to the vendors. No more credit cards required or payment gateways. We're making those checks. Probably no need to go through a bank. Can we go through a UPI? And this is what we are doing with one of our customers called ABFRL, which is the Auditable Fashion and Retail. And on top of it, I have my good friend in the room. What about GST reconciliation? And you're going to hear about that as well today. So I'm not going to steal your thunder. But then, communication then becomes very important because you're defining your policies. Like I said, these questions are getting asked. Can I rent this car? Can I take this whiskey? Am I allowed to expense this software? Am I allowed to do this or that? All of that would come into your travel and expense policy. And this is what we have done at SAP, what I was saying, a travel hub. The system basically guides me. In-app guidance is there. The system has a just-in-time messaging. I can ask the system very simply, is this allowed? The system will tell me. No need to waste anybody's time, my time, or probably spend it and then realize it's not going to be reimbursed back to me. And that's the kind of thing we have basically. So let's prepare for a trip. When I'm preparing for a trip, tell me what is the most important thing which comes to your mind. And I bet you we don't even think about this. I never thought about this till the time I came to Concur. The place I'm going to, do you know if this is safe or not? What is of most paramount importance than my safety? to the company, to the CFO, to the MD, or let's say to myself or my family. They would love to know if the place you're going to stay in, is that area safe? And that's the first thing I would love to understand. Maybe there's a riot which has happened in Austria and you're traveling there. The system can actually tell you, do not even plan it because it's not safe right now. And that's a conscious call you would take whether you want to travel or not. So that's how I prepare for my trip now. When I'm going, I actually check, and the system gives me a real-time score of even on women's safety. If you're going to a particular place, this area is not safe for women, so do not go and stay there. Okay, and that's what is very important. Now let's say I've planned for my trip, I'm booking a trip now, I need to decide where am I going. And this is where I was saying the new travel experience is coming. I would just put the name of the office, let's say, where am I planning to go, and the system is going to then tell me that this place is basically having these many things. And then you, based on that, the system will actually start doing the booking back for you. Now, when I'm doing the booking, I probably would need rental cars, Ubers, Olas, as well. And what if, I tell you, the moment you book your Uber, your expense is filed, because we have that integration with Uber. So when I have planned for my trip, now this is what is very interesting, and I think it happens with all of us. 90% of us, we totally ask this question, can we actually do this? It's outside of our policy, but I would love to do that. And I think all of it then combines into the single system of SAP Concur, which actually tells you before the incident itself that maybe this is out of policy. If you have an exception approval, it clicks, and then you can probably approve it, reject it totally based on your, Now during a trip, it's very important that I need to have certain information. So probably where am I staying? What is the nearest petrol pump? Where is the nearest pharmacy? Maybe a doctor. Or let's say I have some condition because I'm traveling with my family. I should be actually very near to, or probably next to a hospital if possible. And then that information is also on the top of your hand in your Concur app. So no need to actually go and look for certain things wherein you get lost. The system is going to actually recommend certain things back to you. And very important, you were smart enough to check, to go to a place beforehand if there was a problem, yes or no. What if you landed there and then something started? How would you know? Unless you know Spanish in Spain, probably you're not reading the newspaper well. If at all you never tried getting to your laptop, reading the news for today in Spain, in that particular area, maybe again you're caught unaware, but then we are going to help you. We have an integration with ISOS, which basically is going to send you alerts to tell you do not go out. There's probably a problem. There's a strike, let's say in Paris, which keeps happening every month. Maybe there are 5 in a month, 10 in a month, and therefore there's not going to be any taxi today. So do not miss your bus, have your breakfast early, and probably go in a bus. And these emergencies, are you prepared for them? And how is your company going to take care of it? And the same thing then goes back to your organization as well. And that's how to basically take care of you. So while you are keeping the traveler safe, it is after a trip now we're getting to. So after a trip, when I'm actually getting back to my home, there are a lot of things I would have done during the trip. So probably I would have utilized a corporate credit card. And have I opted into e-receipt? Like I said, you use an Uber and the expense is filed immediately. For example, if you've stayed with Marriott, we have an integration with Marriott as well. Or if you stayed in Taj, we have an integration with Taj as well. By the time you're landing, and one thing I totally love, by the time you're landing to your home base, let me tell you, your expense is filed and is already in the approval process. And what is important is, it is auditable. And I know CFOs, being CFOs, you love audits. So you would love to have some audit rules defined inside the system. And I think that's where we say balance your user experience with the compliance. Or let's say, consider the why we should actually look into this particular type of an audit deviation, if at all. And I think those are the kind of things we are going to build into the system. And one thing I totally love is tail spend, and which keeps happening as well. Because I was traveling, I would have spent some money here and there. Probably I wanted to go and take some printouts, or maybe there was something on material which I wanted to buy offhand, and then I wanted to come back and take the expense reimbursement on my name. Or for that matter, consider a doctor which is again sponsored by a particular company because they are going for a conference in, let's say, US. How that sponsored guest functionality is going to come in. Or let's say you have a breakdown in your company and you have some engineer who's coming from the OEM side and you want to furnish all his travel and expense in one receipt. And therefore, he or she can actually get into the system and be a user, and the system will guide them to book this as per the policy of guest functionality. And this is what also the system provides. So the pharma company totally loves it. The commerce companies, the manufacturing companies, autos, they totally love this feature. And I think this is what we released, I think last year. That's what has been work in progress. So audit is one, and then we are also ensuring compliance, which has to come in as well. And I think there's a very thin line between looking at it line by line very tactically, or probably look at it from an overall analysis of your expense file. And then don't forget, there's another angle of regulation. Whether you are regulatory compliant or not, are you trying to do away with some taxes again? Let's say the GST should have been paid on this particular thing, but we actually forgot, or it got missed, and therefore then partner apps like this by FinCraft would come into picture to actually help you on the GST side as well. And we'll have another session probably where you will see how this tool works in action. Okay. The important part is finding the right balance between human and technology. It cannot be a pain to the person out there. So I would say while we are designing the system, we are taking care of the user experience as well, and that becomes important. The last part is we have done a lot of things. Now we have a lot of data. What do I do with it? And I love this quote by, I take my name, maybe I wrote it. I don't remember. I don't know who that person is, but whosoever said this was very good. Without data, you're just another person with an opinion. If there's no data, it's an opinion. I would respect it, but I would go by data. Okay. So when it comes to data, data needs to make sense out of it. And again, I'm coming back to the question of corporate sustainability, or the governments across the globe, what they are trying to do in order to produce green cement or green steel and whatnot. Let's say green energy itself. They are the biggest polluter. What have you done personally? Can you go paperless in your organization? In the whole process of the travel and expense in Concur, we generate 0 paper. By the way, the flight which you are going to take, if it is Boeing 737 or it's an Airbus or whatever it is, will also tell you the carbon emission from that airplane. You could be conscious enough to take a call, I will not fly in this one, or for that matter, once you see through your eyes that I'm going to generate 5,000 tons of carbon by doing this flight, can I actually do this remote and not fly at all? And therefore, that's my responsibility as a person to look into this. So we have started developing those dashboards, and mind you, there are companies who have started adopting, and they are actually very consciously looking at it. So again, I put this question back onto you as CFOs, as finance individuals, coming from the IT fraternity as well. What is your contribution to your CEO's agenda of sustainability? How much are you contributing? If he is saving from manufacturing processes X amount of carbon, what are you adding to it? And that's a question we need to ask ourselves when we are actually deciding on our transformation journey. And when we look at data, we are also going to consider another important thing, which is always on top of your head, because CFOs can be very, very rigid at times, and they would say, report मेरे format में चाहिए. तुम्हारा format कुछ भी होगा, मेरे को मेरा format देखना है. For that matter, you might say, ठीक है, मैं change कर लेता हूँ, but मेरे ऊपर वाले को वही format चाहिए, तो मेरा format लाके दो. And therefore, what we say is, we're going to consider your format. We're going to make the data the way you want to see it. Okay, and that data is basically going to be given in the form of a dashboard, which is dynamic in nature, refreshes every 2 minutes. So on the tip of a button, while you're going back your home, you would know what is my cash flow on travel, what is my cash flow on expenses, how much expenses are pending, how much CO2 emission did I stop today, amounting to, there's a calculation by UN which says, if this is the amount you stop, these many trees you save, this is how you have held the data for water index, okay, etc., etc. And I think this is a dashboard we are also creating. You would be seeing that very soon, coming out to help our customers to help with the sustainability goals. And that's where I say we have developed our vision. Probably my last slide, to come on to the vision, create a world where travel and expense practically manage themselves. Probably the best thing we can do for humankind is not to disturb the morale of our employees because they did not get paid on time, because their reimbursements got cut because of some policies which they were not aware of since I was new, and it has happened with me personally, and I didn't like it, not at all. Because it's my money I've spent already on a customer dinner. He is not giving me something personal, but then I need that money back. But if the company tells me the policy does not allow you to have liquor, I should have been told earlier. It's not my responsibility to go and read a 100-page document. Probably somebody needs to create a system which stops me from doing it. So the proactiveness should be there in the system, and that's what we believe in. Mission is, by building an intelligent, predictive travel and expense invoice management ecosystem that is instinctive. Okay, minimal contribution or human effort is required, and I think the outcome, we are looking for a sustainable future which matters to all of us. So I'm gonna stop here and probably tell you by summarizing. Under one platform, we are giving you an entire experience of travel and expense and invoice, which is self-managed, is how we are looking at it. SAP Concur is almost 50% by market share when it comes to global. We are the pioneers. We started the whole concept of travel expense and invoice under one umbrella, and that's how we are looking at it. I'm going to be here around also there, having a cup of tea or having food with you. Very happy to take questions then, but I'm good for now. So thank you very much for your patient hearing, and it was wonderful to be with you.